What's up, Philadelphia sports fans? I am Anthony Pinto,
And I'm Keith Malashewski.
and welcome to the War Room. We are War Room Philly, as you can see, Keith through the intrawebs as always. But the new edition, Keith, we're gonna have you live, on face. We got the
FaceTime.
we got the face.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's good. It's good to have you. Glad to have you on board and everything. Got a another fun show planned. First off, I know actually, holy crap! Right off the bat, I'm gonna call myself out. Wrong colors to wear tonight because off the lead, I'm gonna say what a win over the Flyers last night, 3-0 over the Penguins.
I wasn't going to say anything.
Like a chump, I'm wearing black and yellow. Keith,
What
I'm
happened?
just overly
I know what
ecstatic.
you're excited
I'm
about.
overly ecstatic that the Team Dignitas lineup is coming back. And not only are they back, but they're kind of dusting off some of the old heads, and they're taking an old dynasty, at least three of the old dynasty, formerly known as Ninjas in Pajamas. And yeah, you're going to have like one of the biggest names in CS:GO as far as longevity on the Dignitas team. They're going to be EU, so they won't dethrone like Cloud9 or Team Liquid on the fandom, but they're now the favorite EU team. Sorry, Astralis. But Astralis is only my favorite EU team because there used to be a Team Dignitas roster. So,
Well, I guess at this point, it's now your Team Dignitas roster is your favorite team.
yeah, they're the new European roster. But yeah, it's I'm looking forward to it. I have been trolling many a Dignitas post asking when are we gonna get a CS:GO roster, and I in fact got a reply not too long ago
Ooh.
saying soon, and I was like, and well, it was worth it. It was worth it. Uh, so I'm looking forward to it. No one cares though. No one cares.
I'm sure someone somewhere.
Look, not too far away in the distant future is Philadelphia Fusion's first home game. It's going to be in Philly, so that's going to be coming up. It's going to be fun. So the esports scene is it's going to be interesting to see how it takes here in Philadelphia. Um, but yeah, we got a lot to get into today, Keith. We're going to talk about. We're not going to talk about esports. We're going to talk about. We're going to talk a little bit of. A little bit of Flyers, a little bit of Sixers. Offensive coordinator. Do we get one? Uh, at this point, is picking Deuce Staley like a sign that no one wanted to come, or is it? We'll see. We'll see if it even is going to be Deuce Staley. But yeah, we got a lot to talk about tonight.
We do. We got a lot on the table that we can definitely get into, and I'm
But
excited.
yeah. So yeah, and obviously right now, of course, the Sixers on national TV. I forgot to check the score before I turned my TV off and
I
hopped
believe it was
on.
like 30. I have it actually right here. It's
Yeah,
35-26, end of the first quarter. Sixers leading.
there we go. Yeah, Josh Richardson did leave, so that with a hamstring injury,
That
so they're
will
gonna have
be
to
that'll be big.
gonna have to play another game without him. But yeah, it was last night's game for the Flyers. Off the bat, I gotta say, as far as this team goes, the most dominant I've seen them from start to finish. And I gotta be honest, it was really fun to watch that team play the way they did yesterday. And yeah, I was impressed. It was they played sound defensively, like they have for pretty much most of the year, and not only that, they ended up putting a goal in each period, one being the empty netter in the third. But that pass from Couturier to Voracek was a great
It was beautiful.
great pass from Couturier, and props to Voracek for finishing off on the backhand. Every goal that you see Voracek score at this point, you're like, oh please, now is the time for Jake to get hot, because if the Flyers are going to do And Keith, we talked about this a little bit
We did
last
talk
week,
about it.
and we talked about this even a couple weeks prior. If the Flyers are going to, if they really want to make a noise, or if they really want to make noise, this trade deadline, I think that noise will be better made as sellers, although not necessarily like you're giving up on this season, but trading a guy like Jake Voracek and or JVR could be huge for this team in
Who
the
also
future.
scored last night.
Yeah, but again, guys, now is the time to get hot for us if you're gonna do it. I don't know if if the front office is looking to make these moves, but if they wanna get ahead, if they want to do something that the Phillies didn't necessarily have the audacity to do, if they want to get ahead, and Jim Titus is in chat. What up, Jim? Push-ups now if we want a Stanley Cup. I could give you some push-ups. I could give you like 10. I can give 10 for Jim. If it means a Stanley Cup, or is that what we're going to do now for the Stanley Cup? How about just the playoffs? Playoffs with this team? No, but for real, if we want 10 push-ups, Jim, I will give 10 push-ups. If it means you're going to be back next week, because it has been a while since I've gotten harassed to do push-ups. Now we hold on that for playoffs. Yeah, it's not sad. It's going to be. I do think this team is, right now they're in a good spot for the playoffs. Right now they are in a really good spot. But again, and I'm going to mention this every time that we talk about the playoffs with this team, is the East is really good. And you beat one of those really good teams last night. And guess what? Coming out of the All-Star break, guess who you play again? The Penguins. So, yeah, it's going to be... whoever did that, scheduling-wise, great job. And really, for the Flyers, could you ask for a better opponent? Because, let's face it, this team gets up for the Penguins. And I mean, why not, of course. But this team gets up for the Penguins. Just didn't beat them. Shut them the bleep out from Joe Heston in chat. Yeah, it was... look, there's a reason why we're talking about the Flyers first today. That was a big win. A big, big win.
It was a very big win.
It was impressive. And again, Moose has been really showing me all year. Very solid player. I'll say it time and time again. I like Brian Elliott, the backup, much more than Brian Elliott, the starter. And obviously right now he is the starter. But what do good quality backups do for you, Keith?
Well, they get you a clutch win when you need it.
And not only that, they can pick up the slack when when your goalie gets nicked up. Let's face it, 2 weeks. That's kind of like, how do I word this? It's almost like a quality backup goalie, almost like looks to this kind of for this kind of moment in the season. And
I mean, he's that veteran presence that you want in your goaltending locker room, and you want that guy that's going to steady the ship, because we already know that Carter Hart obviously is out currently, so we're going to need to lean on him a little bit more. We're going to have Alex Lyons back there, and you can't really expect that much out of Alex, so you're going to need somebody like Moose to go ahead and get it done for you, and that's really what's important here, and I'm so glad to see it, especially because the Flyers have been, granted, they're young and we know they're going to be this way, but they've been up and down. They've been up and down because you had the win over the Penguins, but then you have the 4-1 victory, against the Kings. You have the 4-1 loss against the Canadiens.
Yeah.
You win against the Blues in overtime. You win against the Bruins in the weirdest shootout ever. And I mean that by that whiff that we ended up getting.
Yeah, actually, on the live stream, we started off that show with I just played the shootout for anyone that was watching, and that was fun. It was fun just to watch again.
It was beautiful to watch as many times as I could watch that, because that doesn't happen in professional sports. So it was nice to see that. So it's good to see this against a key opponent and a key spot to keep you in that playoff hunt. And I know it's only just hitting the All-Star break, but every point matters because this East, like you said, it is red hot and real tough.
Yeah, yeah. And just want to catch up with chat. Just want to say, hockey is the ish. This is from Jim in chat. But it doesn't get the love that it deserves. Bear with me. He believes it's because it's so damn hard to remember the names of people around the league. And let me go a little to that point real quick. I'm not gonna go that it's because they're hard to pronounce, but I do agree with you that the marketing department in the entire NHL, maybe outside of Gritty and the Flyers, has just been piss poor, like, to put it nicely. And I do think that that's part of the reason. Like the national coverage, like, my God, watching that game last night, Keith, I am not the kind of guy to bitch and moan about broadcasts. I know how hard it is to do it, but like from pregame on, it was literally just, we're gonna bash Flyers fans.
It was rough.
Not Philadelphia's, but Flyers fans, and it was like, wow, from start to finish. Like, Keith Jones just sat there and laughed too. Like, he doesn't even defend us. But yeah, it was a little all over the place, and the fact that they fought through a lot last night, and maybe the Flyers are the better team than the Penguins, and hopefully we'll find out, coming out of the this All-Star break.
We're gonna have that.
We got TK who's going to be in the All-Star break, by the way. Joe says that Drew pass to TK was beautiful. I had mentioned the Couturier one, so I'm glad that he mentioned that. Kevin Hayes, can we take a moment to admire his puck handling? And I think I know exactly what you mean. You're talking about the moment when, was it the second? I think it was the third period. Pittsburgh was on the power play, and he kind of like skated up, and he's like, skirt, and he pulled back and take it back into the Flyers zone, and then dumped it all the way down. Yeah, that was awesome. Oh, Jim's also pounding Twisted Teas. I don't know if you saw, but I don't have a Twisted Tea, but I got a perfect day going. It wasn't a perfect day, so now I'm trying to make it one.
I'm just drinking coffee, but I got a dope mug that a good friend gave me. A very good friend.
We can. Oh, I messed up. I just moved you around the screen instead of making it big. He killed 20 seconds off of that pound. Yeah, he really did. You see, I would like to have that right now, believe me. But if I did, I'd be like, I'm really trying to cut down on my caffeine intake late, especially when I'm like as insomniac as I've been lately. But yeah. And so,
I have a workout to do after this, so I gotta keep the energy with me.
Yeah, I gotta work out too.
I bet you do.
I'm gonna be doing fish food lifts. But yeah, speaking of working out, the Flyers have been, no, that was terrible. Listen, we'll get into that. I don't want to. Let's stick with the Flyers for a little bit longer, and then we'll get into that Ben Simmons comment before I forget it. But anyway, yeah, as far as the Flyers goes, I do think it's like the trade deadline for the NHL is like rapidly approaching. Monday, yeah, February 24th.
Yeah.
So
got a month.
So while I would love to see the Flyers add some pieces, and maybe you still can add a piece to this team, even through trading a Jake Voracek. But I honestly, I don't think it's possible to trade JVR. I do, however, think you may be able to trade Voracek. And you won't be getting a ton for him, but I think that ultimately is what this team's got to look for. Because even if you just get rid of those two people, Voracek and JVR, or at least one of them, it doesn't hamper what this team can still do this year. Like, I don't think that getting rid of one and or both of those guys means that now they're not going to make the playoffs. Like, I don't think that either of those two players have shown that of course they're going to help, but also maybe who you get back, or maybe one of these younger guys steps up. Maybe Joel Farabee is ready. Maybe it's
Farabee. Frost is down there who he's trying to get back up. So you have those guys in the minors that could potentially pick up the slack when you do move that guy to get yourself another piece out of Voracek or JVR, to get yourself something else to add in there. You might even be able to trade them with one of those younger guys to get yourself another big piece to come out here and really make that push to win it this year.
Yeah, and we do see from Jim and chat about the Giroux thing. Look, we would toy with the notion of trading Giroux if it were possible at all. But it's between his contract, between the no movement clause, and just in general. I honestly don't believe that trading Giroux makes this team any better.
No, I think Giroux
even going forward. I do think that in Jim's sense, he's right. It's not 2010, and Giroux he's probably not a top 10 or 15 player anymore, but he's still, he's still borderline all-star. Obviously, he's not an all-star this year. TK did make it, though. And, he was playing wing this year. Now he just recently moved back to center. I do think center is his better position, especially at this stage in his career. I thought that the wing would have been better for him 4 years ago. But I do... The thing that... It's funny. It's going to... Now we can start transitioning because Giroux does things sort of like Ben Simmons where they do the things that you don't see on the stat sheet. And, again, it's Giroux's defensiveness too that he's obviously known for his offensive game, but his defense in the corners.
He's always been a great penalty killer too.
Yeah. And if you look up his stats last year, his numbers were right up there. So I don't want to just say he's dead, in the water. I think Giroux makes any team that he's on a better hockey team, even with his contract.
I would agree. Much like you said, Ben Simmons, he does things all around the ice that you may not see immediately, because obviously you show up in other places other than just that point total stat line.
And Jim says, "Be honest, will you win a cup with Giroux and Voracek leading?" And that I agree with, which is why I have said, I don't think you can trade Giroux, but I do think moving Voracek is possible. And I would move Voracek literally for a bag of hockey pucks. Anything that you can get for him, I would trade. Even this season, when you're potentially looking for a playoff push, because moving forward, that cap space is so much more valuable to this team than anything Jake Voracek will offer. Because Voracek is kind of like Voracek wasn't supposed to, but he's also moving into like a Giroux role, nowhere near as good defensively, but like he wants to be, and it's like that's not what you're here for though. Voracek, ultimately, he's fallen short his entire career of what he was supposed to be, which was a natural-born goal scorer.
Yeah, it's a little frustrating to see that. I still love Jake, obviously, and I know you as well. I'm not, and I know this is just
so do I. I'm not.
What can we do different to launch us forward?
Yeah.
And possibly instead of waiting for everything just to kind of pan out how it is, which we see the progress happening, we see what's happening. So it's just, when are they going to make that jump forward? When are they going to really be able to become this great team that we know they can be? Maybe facilitating that by getting rid of someone.
Do you have chat up, Keith?
I do actually, and I was on my way to saying that before that even popped in.
Joe just fired a zinger, and I'm going to give him credit. I don't maybe agree with it all that much, but I do at least agree with it a little. And he says, "What do the Flyers and Ben Simmons have in common? They don't shoot." And it's funny, I do remember watching that game last night, and I remember at one point, it was, I think, Voracek and Couturier, and Voracek passed off when he should have shot, and then like a couple plays later, it was vice versa. And I remember Giroux took the shot, and I was like, "Damn! Now Giroux should have passed." I don't get the specifics on me, but I do remember saying like two kind of plays that were a little screwy last night. But that was all I could complain about, and I don't remember it. And you know why I don't remember it? Because they won 3-0, and they looked damn good doing it.
Damn good doing it. Which, you know, there's multiple teams doing things a little bit differently than we want them, but looking damn good doing them. So Philadelphia's feeling pretty good.
Yeah. And again, today is not the day to like try to trash Ben Simmons, because that game against the Nets on Monday, on Martin Luther King Day, he was phenomenal. And all right, maybe he wasn't shooting the ball, but we don't need him to shoot the ball if he does what he did all game, which was attack the rim. Even though he was getting fouled, he went to the foul line, and he still put up a career-tying 34 points in that game. And not only that, him and Matisse Thybulle, their defense coming down the stretch, that game was insane. Absolutely insane.
Which two things on that. A, the fact that Matisse Thybulle is not in the Rising Star Challenge right now, Rising Star part of the All-Star game. It's absolutely criminal. Absolutely criminal. So I'm upset by that. And two, Ben Simmons scoring 34 points, 12 rebounds, 12 assists. Which, by the way, I forget how many steals he had precisely. I think it was like 5. He is the only player since steals became a stat to have that stat line, which is impressive in itself. But you know what the most impressive part about that game was for me with Ben Simmons, Anthony? Do you know?
No, tell me, Keith.
The fact that he went 10 for 14 from the line. The fact that he had that good a percentage from the free throw line is huge.
Well, Keith, what has bothered me most about Ben Simmons' game all year?
The fact that he doesn't go to the rim, and when he does, he can't make his free throws.
Yeah, it was the lack of free throw percentage this year. I said, look, we can, you know, people can bitch at whatever they want, but honestly, what really kills him is when he's shooting 60% or lower from the free throw line, because that hampers him from being aggressive Ben. And again, you don't necessarily need an outside shot. You do need a jumper. You do need that little sky hook that he's working into his game. You need that. Absolutely.
Yes, absolutely.
He's got to start pulling the ball up and shooting. I said many, many times he needs 3 spots on the court that he can just pull up and make. And that sky hook is starting to become 1 spot. Now he needs to find that, you know, you see when he takes the threes, it's from the little corner. And he needs to find his spots. That all being said, what he still needs to do most is exactly what you were just talking about, Keith. Doing what he did, replicate time and time again what he did against the Nets, because that's what we need. That's the Ben Simmons. And not only that, let's talk about how he was playing 1, he was playing 3, 5, he was playing everywhere defensively.
He was dominant defensively, and that is impressive. He did that against both New York teams. He looked damn good. I mean, Ben Simmons is playing the best basketball, dare I say, of his career right now, and that's important. This time without Joel Embiid, he needs to grow. He needs to continue to find his groove, and then when Joel gets back, we'll end up finding out how to mix them together. And I really do believe that, but I think this is an important time for Ben Simmons to take that step forward. And these past 2 games, and specifically that Brooklyn game, is definitely the biggest part of it for me.
Yeah. You know, again, we were speaking of trade deadlines. The NBA trade deadline isn't like that far off from Actually, holy crap, it's a lot closer. It's February 6th.
Yes, it is. With
that, you got a lot of talk heating up. I have been behind the Derrick Rose train for a couple weeks now.
I'm in.
What's not to be in on?
Listen, I mean, let's just assume you don't have to give up too much to get him. He becomes your best player off the bench. You get instant scoring. You get a dynamic player and a great locker room guy. What is there to complain about at that point?
Outside of the obvious, but outside of Josh Richardson and Matisse Thybulle, I can give up pretty much anything for Derrick Rose.
Pretty much.
Now, it comes down to, you know, you can't just send 5 players for Derrick Rose, you know.
Yeah, you got to match salaries.
So that's where the challenge comes down to, because what do that, like, maybe they need to give Matisse Thybulle up for Derrick Rose, and that's where I got to think and
Yeah,
stop
I
and
gotta
scratch
be
my
like,
head because look, everybody knows I was very quick to get rid of Landry Shamet, right?
well,
Matisse Thybulle is going to be so much more than Landry Shamet.
Matisse Thybulle already has the defense, which you don't see out of a rookie how
Yeah.
well he plays defense. And now he's starting to find some of a scoring groove, which is huge.
Yeah.
I mean, he becomes a huge piece off the bench for you at that one. Actually, he's been a starter lately. So, I mean, that's big. I mean, and when Embiid comes back, he does go to the bench, and having him and Derrick Rose come off the bench for you, think about that. Think about that.
And then, you'll probably still have a guy like Mike Scott. I would imagine maybe a guy like Ennis is moved in something like that.
Ennis, probably Zaire Smith, some picks.
Furkan. Furkan is probably your biggest trade chip right now,
Yeah,
which
Furkan
has
with
been blatantly obvious what the Sixers have been trying to do with him. So Furkan, but you're also been looking at potentially bringing back JJ Redick. Redick would be great. I would rather. So the one thing that Redick can't do that we obviously need is to be another ball handler. To back up Ben on. And, you've been seeing kind of Howell and Trey Burke go back and forth as that kind of backup role, and Richardson can take it at times. But, man, having a guy like Derrick Rose, again, to come off your bench, to be that secondary or tertiary ball handler behind even Richardson, that would be fantastic.
Yeah.
He's happy with his role in Detroit. And how willing is Detroit going to want to be? Maybe where are they at in the standings? I'll look that up real quick. But yeah, that's kind of the next step in this team is how are they going to get a little different? Because and I said it going into the season, you don't need Ennis, Mike Scott, Kyle O'Quinn, Norvel Pell. Like, you don't need all four of those guys, to be honest. Like, you need two of those guys, maybe three. I like the role that they have Kyle O'Quinn in. Norvel Pell, I guess they're brought up to maybe they're trying to trade him.
At this point, because they played him today, I mean, you're gonna have to sign him to a contract or let him go.
Yeah, it's one or the other at this point. So
we've used up all games, and to be quite honest, I would like him on this team. I mean, that would be.
I'm not a fan of his, to be honest.
He's been valuable in a small role, which is all you really need him to be. But now you got to figure out who you're going to get rid of on this roster to make room for him. Is really what it got. And I guess that would be Jonah Bolden, really.
Yeah, he's trash.
Yeah,
he's like.
He looks really. I mean, and I mean this in a because I was a personal trainer at one point and. Get big into nutrition. He looks like he's doing something a little weird. He looks really thin, and
well, they did. He switched his diet up. He went vegan. I think they said he gave up meat. So he
good for you, I guess.
Everyone says that the dude really worked on his body off the court and his game on the court. And I respect you for doing that. That all being said, I don't like Norvel Pell, and I would take him over Jonah Bolden. Jonah Bolden gets in the game and makes 4 fouls.
Yeah, he's a foul machine.
Yeah.
I mean, it's disappointing. He looked like he was a big player. He was going to have some athleticism. We might be able to get something out of him, but nope, can't even have him as a rotational player. So move on, bring in Norvel Pell, and let's keep this train rolling. And like I said, bring me Derrick Rose, and then we might actually have ourselves a little bit of a bench here.
Yeah, and for we were talking about the Pistons. Pistons are currently in 9th, 2 games back from the Nets. So I guess for the Pistons, it all comes down to what does making potentially the 8th or 7th seed mean to you, and then what can the Sixers do to sweeten that deal? Sure, we got picks, but it's your picks aren't valuable anymore.
They have. I know that sounds insane, and yes, I understand the value of the second round pick isn't that much in the NBA. They do have a few second round picks from other teams that are in the low 30s that make themselves as valuable as one of those high first round picks. So that kind of is what you would be structuring your deals around pick wise. But like you said, it's not like it's that fantastic. But that's for a team that's trying to find some diamonds in the rough, I guess. That might be something.
Yeah. And then yeah, so really those second round picks are almost as valuable or unvaluable depending on how you want to look at it as your first round picks. But again, yeah, you can potentially look if you got a Sam Hinkie on the other side of the deal where those second round picks mean something, you know, all right, it's time to roll. But yeah, as and just to settle a little something in chat, let me see one. It was LeBron James' 8th season before he won a championship. That was his first year in Miami. They won the championship, right, Keith?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, you are correct.
So that was his 8th season. I just saw that in chat. There's been a lot of banter between Jim and Joe, which I love to see. It's all been pleasant too. No one's calling any names too much or anything. So I love it. I've just been lurking. And Joe, I'm glad you brought it up because I had it in my brain, but then a million other things happen. Yeah, when we talk trade rumors, for the love of, I'm just quoting Joe. It's rare that Joe and I, although more and more Joe and I are agreeing, but for the love of God, no Rocco.
Yeah, no, I don't.
We're talking about Matisse Thybulle. Matisse Thybulle is double. He's already better than Rocco. Like what was the biggest thing about Rocco's game? His defense. But then what was his worst thing about his game? His inconsistent three. We might as well take the inconsistent three out of a rookie. And honestly, I already think that Matisse Thybulle's defense, bringing Rocco here would only hamper Thybulle. That's like, and I don't mean to throw the. It's like a Flyers move where where you know like they re-signed Gudis. You know, instead of just giving the younger guy, Matisse Thybulle in this case, a shot. Or in that case, you know, the Morans or any of these young kids that are succeeding, by the way. But I digress. So, yeah, no to Rocco. I'm glad you brought it up, Joe. Thank you for that. Honestly, as far as, like, and I'll go to, like, maybe I'll look into NBA trade deadline, rumors, I mean. But as far as like the actual names go, the two biggest ones for the Sixers have been for me at least Derrick Rose and JJ Redick, and I don't know that the Pelicans are just gonna like ship in the whole idea that they don't want to play this season too, because you know they're where the hell are the Pelicans? Let me look at find where they're at. Yeah, I guess they're sitting 12th. So it's probably not looking too great this season. But I mean, if Zion is what he is, then JJ still probably wants to stick around down there, I would imagine. I guess JJ at the end of the day, he just wants his money.
He does. I mean, that's really all that comes down to.
So whatever. But yeah,
I mean, when he did what he did, I actually didn't blame him too much because everything was still in limbo with, you know, Jimmy Butler, Tobias Harris, and he was like, I gotta get my money when I can get my money, so I'm out.
Yeah, but he wasn't gonna get that deal anywhere else.
Oh no, absolutely not.
so yeah, I look. The only time I ever really made it a big issue, and that was more of a fan thing than anything, was when Jason Worth did it. But I don't really like to get on a player when they gotta make their money because I get it. Like, if someone ever said to you like, would you want to make more money at your job or not? Like, of course you're gonna say yeah. so yeah, I don't fault, especially athletes, like your shelf life is so short and you don't know. So, you know, they gotta get everything that they get. That all being said, I would love to have JJ back, but I want Derrick Rose so much more, because I think Derrick Rose is just the more all-around basketball player. He might not, you know, top JJ in the 3-point percentage, but just as an overall basketball player, look, he doesn't have the athleticism that he obviously, you know, when he was drafted in the beginning by the Bulls, but he has really reinvented himself, and as a 6th man, 7th man on this team, Oh, it would be fantastic.
Yeah,
Backup
I'm
ball
in.
handler can sub in for Ben and or Josh. It's exactly what this team needs.
And he's got that most important attribute that we love to talk about. He's got grit.
He's got intangibles such as he's kind of like a quieter Jimmy Butler.
A little bit.
Um,
A little bit. I mean,
so
he's fierce on the court, and him tearing his Achilles tendon set him back quite a while. We were front row for that injury,
yeah,
and helped prolong a bad Sixers team run in the playoffs somehow. So it's a shame for him. I've always loved him as a player, so I'm glad to see he can at least do something. And I'm down to see him in a Sixers uniform.
yeah, absolutely. Um, so yeah, it's certainly look, this team fifth seed should not be where they're at right now. It's time for them to go on a run. So we'll see. We certainly will see this. The East is kind of just all lumped together though. If you look at the standings, and then there's the Bucks, whom I predicted to win the East. For the regular season. It's just they're the same thing that they were last year, except better. Whereas the Sixers had some pieces to move around and this and that. And you kind of just expected some bull crap to happen with the Sixers. So here it is. We're dealing with it. But it's time for this team to turn it around. It's time for Elton Brand to solidify this bench, and then it's time for Brett Brown to get this team together. Because it's too far into the season to still be finding your identity.
Yeah, it definitely is. I mean, granted, we are only a game out as well. I guess technically 2 with wins and losses and whatnot. But I mean, the Heat are only at 30 wins. We're at 29, albeit they're 3 losses less than us. You're really not that far out of the 2 seed, so you really need to get your ish together, so to speak, so you can go ahead and make that stretch run and get yourself that 2 seed, get yourself in the right position, so that way you got your home court throughout the playoffs until you get to the Bucks. And then I'll be honest, I think we match up great with the Bucks, and I'm really not that afraid of them, assuming we do what we have to do and we actually, like you said, kind of get our identity going here.
Yeah, look, it's weird because this season it's going kind of how I expected, and yet that all being said, I'm mad at Brett Brown, just like everyone else, and I'm a little disappointed in Ben Simmons, just like everybody else. But like you just said, look, the Sixers aren't going to shoot like 89% like they did the game against the Bucks. That still, keeping that in mind, I think the Sixers, like you said, Keith, they match up well against the Bucks. If anything, you have Ben, you have Al, you have Embiid. Goodbye, Giannis. So, then it comes down to what can the rest of the Bucks team do, and I like our chances. I really do.
I do. I love our chances.
That's where you still have Josh Richardson. That's where you still have even Tobias Harris. He's probably the weak link defensively, but offensively you have him that he can get him going.
And he really isn't that weak defensively.
No. He's still
but
long.
That's just because everybody else is so strong defensively that somebody that is just good defensively, that's considered, which is crazy to think about. I mean, and we're a big team. We are a very big team. When they talk about that bully ball, really honestly, in the playoffs where the game slows down, that's where it's going to be great, because it's not going to be a lot of run and gun. It's not going to be a lot of getting those fast break points. It's going to be a lot of half court sets, and I think our size is going to come in handy there. Granted, you need Simmons to stay aggressive. You need to be that aggressive Ben Simmons, the best Ben Simmons, because if he stays aggressive and does what he did the past couple games, we're going to make some noise in the playoffs.
Yeah, I would say that is the that's kind of the one thing for this team is I wanted to get the other point out. Tobias Harris, real quick. You're talking about Tobias Harris. Yeah, he's the 5th best defender on an already good team. But yeah, as far as this team, the Sixers go, it'll be really interesting how it plays out. Yeah, I really do. I like their chances. It's just getting through this regular season is going to be a grind. That's ultimately what it comes down to. But yeah, any other thoughts on the Sixers
No,
or
no. Honestly, I think we got that all out there. I think it's been fun so far watching. We're gonna get to that
what do
the
we?
game right now. We're sitting at 50-50. It's a brand new ball game after the one half. So it's we'll see what happens tonight. Now that we've gotten off our road game schneid, and we'll see if we can continue our winning ways and enjoy ourselves.
Yeah, Keith, um, getting to and before I want to bring up the Phillies moves too, but anything. What do you make about this Eagles offensive coordinator situation?
So I'm glad you brought that up because there's a couple thoughts that have been swirling around in my head because obviously we had Mike Kafka from the Chiefs who doesn't really want to interview. We've had Graham Harrell who interviewed and then said he wasn't interested, which does that mean he tanked his interview or he really wasn't interested? Or maybe here's my next thought, which is what I'm actually leaning towards. This was always going to be Deuce Staley's job. I'm very, very strong on that because we talked about at this beginning that he might be a possibility. And I think that internally, this was always going to be his job, which is why we have not heard anything as of yet. That is where I'm going with this because the Eagles might just be doing their due diligence, just poking around, and word might have just gotten around to people, and they say, well, if you're only doing your due diligence, that means I really would have to like wow you to get this job over Deuce, and then even still maybe not. That's where I'm leaning with it because let's be honest, you're probably not getting play calling anyway out of them because whoever's in the spot, this is Doug's offense. He's going to call plays. So you're really not getting that much of a bump there to your resume, as it were. So you're not going to get somebody like a Jay Gruden who went to Jacksonville. You're not going to get a guy trying to make a name for himself. I think all of those things kind of swirled around. That's why Deuce Staley was and is going to be our guy.
Um, so just to kind of piggyback off of that, I do think that Deuce deserves, obviously he deserves an interview and a shot. That being said, I think that if they do go with Deuce Staley, they're severely missing an opportunity to get different, which this offense needs. They need to get different, and I don't know that bringing in Deuce does that because he's already been here. I like Deuce. From anyone that's been close to him has talked about how high of an IQ he has. That all being said, I think you kind of talked down on the Eagles' offensive coordinator job a little bit, Keith. Yeah, you're right. You can't call plays, which that's where, like, a Jason Garrett or, like, the more high-profile names, like everyone you named, would rather want. But if you're a younger assistant, you can look at, hey, Frank Reich, who was a head coach. You can look at Dave Filippo and where he's gone with his career, just being a quarterbacks coach here.
Yes, John DeFilippo.
John, I'm sorry, what did I say?
You said Dave.
Dave? Who the hell is Dave?
His brother?
I was I thinking of Dave Phipp, the special teams?
Yeah, you were thinking of Dave Phipp.
I was. All right, so I'm not a complete bonehead, just a little bit of a bonehead. That all being said, though, you do have what we think to be one of the best offensive line in the game or the East. You do have one of the best quarterbacks in the game or the NFC, and Carson Wentz. You do have 10 picks in which hopefully at least one of them is a competent wide receiver. You do have Miles Sanders, Boston Scott, and maybe take your pick at running back. I think that this job is a sexy job, and maybe it's a little damning if people are backing out. That being said, I don't know that it is. Like most of those people have reasons for why they did. No one was just like, I'm not taking, other than maybe the Kansas City move. But again, I'm not necessarily panicked that it's like quote unquote taking long, because the way I see it is that the NFL season is still going on. I'll get panicked if, maybe, so what, the Super Bowl is 2 weeks from now. Maybe in 4 weeks we don't have an offensive coordinator. Then I'll be like, what the hell is going on? But I would, again, just to wrap everything up, I like Deuce Staley, but I want to get different. And I don't know that Deuce does that. But maybe Deuce at least can get this team a little more cemented towards the run game.
And that's a positive. That's a positive for sure, because that is not Doug's instinct, much like it wasn't Andy's. And I was just reading there. It actually looked like Andy put the kibosh on Mike Kafka coming here. That's why the Eagles did not submit a formal request to actually interview him. Although, let's be honest, as we've seen, you can make jumps from positions like the offensive coordinator, not necessarily offensive coordinator. You can make a jump from quarterback coach, actually, as Andy Reid had done, to head coach. And if you have somebody like Patrick Mahomes as your MVP quarterback and you are their quarterback coach, much like Brett Favre was the quarterback for Andy Reid, you might be able to make that jump to head coach, given a little more seasoning. So I wouldn't blame him even if he did get a formal request and deny it. But Andy might have been a little selfish and also been doing Mike a little bit of a favor here.
Yeah. We'll see. So yeah, that's kind of a situation that we'll keep our eyes on. Obviously, if anything happens, Facebook.com/WarRoomPhilly is the place to be to get in and get your discussion going, because that's what we do. We don't break news, we talk about it. And then we have discussions. If you post a comment, especially a smart one, there's a 100% chance we will respond to it.
Very true.
So,
Very true.
Just something.
We like talking.
Keep in mind. But yeah. Wanted to go through. Phillies have made a couple, minor league moves, if you will.
They have.
Recently. Did Drew? The three that I like and most recently happened. Were Drew Storen, Bud Norris, and Francisco Liriano, all to minor league contracts. And these are going to be bullpen guys that they're obviously veterans. It's a low risk deal. These are names that guys. Drew Storen was I think a closer at one point in his career.
He was. He had Tommy John surgery, and he didn't do so hot in the A's AA system last year. But ultimately, much like Liriano and Bud Norris, I mean, these are all like lottery pick type deals going on. One of them probably will stick, and one of them will make a big impact. Maybe more. Maybe all three of them. If I had to put my money on it, though, I feel like Liriano is actually going to be a fantastic addition for the whole year.
Yeah.
One of our, your former co-host, the former founder, I guess not former, but founder of War Room, Greg Hall, is a big fan of that move too. It's where I actually heard about it.
Then I don't like the move. No. Yeah, I do. I like Liriano. He's a lefty, so right off the bat, that gives him a better shot. But I mean, even last year, 69 games he pitched in, gave you 70 innings, 63 strikeouts, a WHIP of 1.36, ERA of 3.47.
5-3 for the year. It's solid.
Yeah, it's a guy that's a minor leaguer on your team right now. So yeah, he's 36. So obviously you're not getting like a Cy Young candidate, but these are guys that can, like you said, Keith. You put it a really good way. I probably wouldn't have thought of, but one of them is probably going to stick out of those three. And bullpen positions are hard to find, man.
Yeah.
So if you get one in what is basically a free deal, that's a good move. That's a good move. And that is going to be, look, bullpen, every team in baseball needs a bullpen pitcher, always. So bullpen is always the hardest thing to find. and to put together. So yeah, I like it. I like to see the aggressive moves, the aggressive low risk moves too. So
Yeah, you're really not risking anything here. I mean, if they don't make it, they don't make it. But if they do, I mean, they could seriously help your team be in that playoff race.
yeah. Now what it comes down to for the Phillies is make that next big move. Where's the next chip fall, or is there none? In which case, you're not going to have the most confident of fan bases.
No, I mean, you definitely have yourself some movement early on. Hasn't been much as of late. But I think overall, you've had some success just by watching who has left the other teams in the NL East. So that's got to make you feel at least a little bit better because obviously Anthony Rendon gone. You have Josh Donaldson gone. You have big names like that who have left. Oh, Dallas Keuchel gone.
Cole Hamels back.
Yeah, well, you know.
We don't like to hear that one.
He's solid. I mean, he's not spectacular, but again, he's solid at this
but
point.
To let him go to the Braves when you, again, just so badly need a left-handed starter.
I know, because you're all righty right
now. Man, it was a 1-year deal. Like, I don't know, man. In my opinion, there's really no price too high to pay for a 1-year deal on a pitcher.
No, there's no real risk
because with baseball, your risk comes with years. See Bryce Harper, 13. Like that's where the risk comes in. Not a 1 year. You can deal with 1 year of a bad contract. You can't deal with 13. Not to insinuate that the Bryce Harper was a bad contract by any means.
No, but that's a long contract and it's recent.
It's something for people to think about. But yeah, and like you said, it's the most recent. It's fresh on all of Philadelphia's minds. But yeah, I mean, with this team now, it's going to be interesting. Like, do you trade Reese? Do you sign a third baseman? There's still a couple third basemen out there. You maybe sign a third baseman, put Bowman first, trade Reese, see what you can get there. Maybe get another outfielder. Like, there's some interesting things that this team can do, or they may do nothing. It's like,
yeah.
Or so what we again. It's pitchers and catchers are gonna be reporting pretty damn soon. It's always like around Valentine's Day that they do that. So
yeah,
this is probably our last big baseball talk before
things actually start.
Before it all goes down. This will be like our last speculation talk. It's kind of our final thoughts of the tonight's show.
And a little bit, yeah. Listen, I get psyched up for that. I always enjoy baseball. Baseball means warm weather. Warm weather means me not being miserable. So
yeah. I'm a cold weather person, although working in it never is fun. I will say, but yeah, I you know me. I got to ski at least twice before I can think about warm weather. That being said, baseball is my favorite. It is
your favorite.
It's always going to be my favorite sport, and I love baseball, and I can watch almost like there's nothing better than being able to throw on like a game when you're like on the corner of your screen at work, like during the daytime, and just like I can watch any two teams play like daytime baseball. It's the greatest. So I don't know. It's I guess that's my final thought, Keith. I don't know. Do you have anything else though that you wanted to talk about at all? We would normally talk about this pre-show, but we were a little rushed.
No, I think we've covered a little bit of everything. Which
we're 4 for 4 today.
I do love my 4 for 4 shows. My 4 for 4 shows. It means it's a good night. It means we've had a lot to talk about. It means we got a lot going on in Philadelphia and a lot to get excited about. So
we had Jim Titus back in the chat too.
We did.
I think that might have been his first time on Twitch. So he better give us a follow too while he was at it. And if you are maybe watching this on YouTube, please at your leisure, twitch.tv/warroomphilly, give us a follow, turn notifications on, because then as soon as we go live, you'll get a notification. And we don't go live like every day, so we may not like annoy you. We'll only give you a notification one time a week.
Yeah.
And do that on Facebook too, because we still will do the occasional Facebook Live show. Although now that the Eagle season's over, that'll occur probably a little bit less.
Yeah.
But yeah, you never know what to expect from us. So yeah, do that. Follow us, War Room Philly, everywhere, everywhere,
Everywhere.
everywhere. That's the best I could put it. At War Room Philly. And then YouTube, just search War Room Philly. I think if you search War Room Philly, one word, or War Room Philly, either way, you should be able to find us. If not, head on over to Facebook. If you can't find a link, message us. Be like, hey there, D-bags. No, I'm just kidding. Don't say that to us. But like, just drop us a message. I or Keith will respond as quick as possible. We'll give you the link. Our goal is to get that YouTube to enough followers that it could be YouTube/War Room Philly. So yeah, everything is just to conquer the world one day at a time.
We were so close to getting through a show without you making me shake my head. Like, so close.
Oh, I didn't say the full thing. I didn't say. I was monitored. You could say that on the air.
You could.
Look, maybe it's not the best because he's no longer on the airwaves, but Jason Martinez dropped it all the time.
He did, actually. Well, he's back to doing Flyers games,
I found that weird. Was there a break ever on that? Or I heard his voice the other day on WMMR, and I was like, wait, so has he always been on MMR since the whole split up?
No, there was a break in him doing anything, and then a few weeks back, they brought him back specific. I think the Flyers organization brought him in to do it, I think is what ended up happening.
Yeah.
I'm fuzzy on the whole details of the situation.
I'll tell
but
you,
that's what he's doing now. Because he even did it on 97.5 the other night. He was
really?
broadcasting.
Okay.
Yeah.
They
it's
did
Flyers coverage in general.
Yeah, they did him dirty. 97.5 did.
They did. They did.
I will say that. It's a crude business. You'd have to be an idiot to want to get into it. Hey! On that note! But with that, Keith, anything else you'd like to say to our lovely family tonight?
No, absolutely not. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Like Anthony was saying, make sure you follow us everywhere at War Room Philly on everything. Make sure you follow us here, twitch.tv/War Room Philly. Give us that follow. That's so important to us. It helps us get to where we need to be and ultimately make this product better for you guys.
Yep. Yeah, I don't know about you, Keith. I am itching to go watch some Sixers basketball. So
I am too, man.
Yeah, with that, guys, thank you all for tuning in, both live and on demand. On that note, I am Anthony Pinto.
And I'm Keith Malashevsky.
And we are out of here.